So she is the pop culture and bookish icon with over 540,000 followers on TikTok and more than 120,000 subscribers on YouTube. She is that girl. And her debut novel, The Enemy of Time, is a second chance sad romance that's out now. Please welcome Haley-Grace McCormick. I am so stoked that you are here. This is your first stop on your debut book tour.
It is. This is my first time doing anything like this. So you guys are gonna witness every time I stumble and have no idea how to answer. So you get all of it right now.
Take it all in. How is it feeling right now? The fact that this is real. You have a book out under your name.
It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying, but so cool at the same time. And getting, having people tell me that they've read the story and what they felt from the story, or something that they learned from the book that I was like, really? I had no idea I wrote that, but I'm so glad that's what you took from it. Just hearing other people's reactions to everything has been really cool.
If you could send a text message to yourself when you were first starting to pen this story, knowing what you know now and what you're experiencing now, what would you tell her?
Ooh. Cut out those 5 chapters from draft 1, not draft 3. That was a big one. Learning to love the red lines of notes from your editors, that's a big one. And sitting with the process a little bit more. I think enjoying the process more, and just kind of taking all of the moments in with it, which is funny. The story is called The Enemy of Time, which is supposed to be telling you to take a minute and to be with be in the world. And I think I wrote it so quick, so I was trying to get it down so fast that you almost forget sometimes to also sit with your own writing afterwards and be like, wow, wait, I just actually did that. I finished something, which was a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, as a fan of yours, and I cyberstalked your page, as one would, I got to learn the origin story about how this story came to be. But for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about how inspiration struck for The Enemy of Time.
Yeah, absolutely. So The Enemy of Time was really created through this short story I had written in college. And I always knew I wanted to write a full novel, but I had taken this class it was a short story class, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was one of those that you had to take, and I had no idea how I was going to write a small story and get your point across in such a short amount of words, because I'm a rambler, if you can't tell, and so I need a lot of words. And you had to write something that was very, very short, and it had to be based on a quote, essentially. So it was if you could tell your younger self something in one sentence, what would that be? And then you're supposed to make this story around that. And I had kind of moved at the same time that this was all happening, and I went through my old journals, because that's a fun thing to do when you move, right? Read your old high school journals, go through it all, see who you were. And I was reading my old journals, and I had come across this chapter. I had to have been 13, probably, and I was devastated in this entry of my journal, apparently. I must have been bawling, there was crying, you could see the tears on the page, and it was about some boy that I was obsessed with, at 13, 14 years old. And looking back at it, my 20-year-old self at the time, I was laughing so hard about how emotionally invested I was in this. But obviously it meant something, right? That younger self, this guy meant something at that time. And it kind of got me thinking about all the little moments in your life that add up to who you are in the present. And that's kind of what sparked this idea of, if I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be, just speak now, love now, be in the moment, because tomorrow isn't always a guarantee. So you want to get it out right then and there. And that's kind of how it all started, and the short story became what it was. And my professor is the one who kind of nudged me to continue writing it into a big story, because she really loved the characters and she thought they had something more to say. And then that started this whole crazy journey from there.
I love that. And I also love that you got to kind of pinpoint the fact that a teacher was the one to encourage you, because I feel like in an author journey, we either hear about professors or teachers that are yes, go forth, pursue that dream, or there are the teachers that are oh, you absolutely are not built to do that.
Yes. I've had both.
Oh, gosh. So what is it about Jamie and Alex's story that was just so compelling that you had to put it on the page?
I think it really was, Jamie's story was one that he's a very messy character, but he's got a lot of heart. And I think Alex is the same way, and they connected in that. And when I'd written the short story, that was kind of what my professor had pinpointed was that these characters had so much more depth to them, and she wanted to understand why were they making the decisions that they were making. And I was like, that's a great question. And so really kind of building their backstory and understanding who they were and kind of why do we do the things that we do, and creating that, like, that's going to drive the characters forward. And Jamie is a character who I personally am very dyslexic. I have dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphica, a little love triangle of learning disabilities. And so for Jamie's character, I really wanted to bring in kind of my own struggles with education. And he has an undiagnosed learning disability. And for me, you know, it runs in our family. My mom has dyslexia. My grandfather had learning challenges. And his story, you know, he was never formally diagnosed. And so because of that, he kind of ended up being the class clown, right? Covering up so you didn't look, you know, you didn't look dumb in class, right? You're going to be the class clown instead. And that really drove a lot of his decisions in life and a lot of his, I think, fears and just general of going out into the real world, right? Out of school. So for Jamie, that was kind of something that was always pushing him forward, and why he would do what he did was a lot of out of this insecurity. And so that's kind of why I wanted them to speak more. I wanted to tell that story through not necessarily having a story fully about a learning challenge, but really showing how that, when it's undiagnosed and not helped, can really make people make different decisions, even in a love story.
Yeah, I love that. So in addition to being an author now, you've obviously had like a pretty long stint in media. You're a full-time content creator. You even studied screenwriting in college. What have you seen as the biggest difference between writing for media versus writing a novel?
Oh, attention span. That's probably what it's very, for social media, it's extremely fast how you have to write your scripts. And I am one of those crazy people who writes out every single word I ever say online because I like to have a script in front of me. But it's got to be very fast, and all the cuts have to be really, really quick. And you're getting information out there truly like as fast as you humanly can speak. And that's why I probably talk at the quickest, like speed possible. So I would say for that especially, screenwriting is going to be a little different. It's still faster than writing a novel because it's you don't have descriptions. In a book we have these beautiful descriptions about what the character's feeling or thinking. In screenwriting, you have to throw all of that out, and it all has to be visual. And so you have to be showing everything. So it's the, what is the character's expression on their face really goes more into how do I say it in dialogue. So for me, I love writing my screenplays. It's actually my draft one for a novel because it gets all of your timing down. It gets what you need to say in a really condensed way. And then when you go to the novel, you know exactly what you're doing. You know your pinpoints, but you can broaden it, you can expand it, and you can make it more in that beautiful concept for formal writing. So I think they all kind of come together somehow, but I love them all individually, but I will say I do love getting to ramble a little bit more in the books.
That's so cool. I've never heard an author start their drafts with screenwriting. I also studied screenwriting in college,
cool.
so I was like, wait, that's so smart, and it saves so much time, because at least for me, when I put a draft on the page, I like almost edit as I go, and it takes so much time when really you just need to like nab the basics of the dialogue. So I'm going to steal that for myself.
It's the best thing. Honestly, my biggest tip ever, if you're like trying to write, a novel, specifically dialogue, like write your whole entire scene out in a dialogue format instead, because then you know exactly what you want to put in between.
Write that down. So again, with you being full-time with content creation, what does a day in your life look like compared to some of us who may go to like a 9 to 5? How does that differ for you?
No sleep and a lot of caffeine is probably what it looks like. I typically will wake up extremely early so I can write all those scripts, and then you go from writing the scripts, you go to filming. After you're done filming, then you got to edit everything, and then once you're done editing, then you got to go over, switch, get fully undone, take the makeup off, which is the best feeling at the end of the day, to get your makeup and hair off. And then I go straight into writing pretty much all night. So I got to figure out how to get all of it into one day typically. I have started learning to time prioritize, which is not my best thing. I'm very ADHD, if you can't tell. So time prioritizing is a whole new thing. But trying to learn how to batch content a little bit, it has been one of those things. But it's all trying to figure out the timing of putting everything together. But that does equal lots of coffee. A friend of mine got me into Monster energy drinks, and I will never forgive him for it. So
Do you have a favorite part of the creation process in your day-to-day?
My favorite part is definitely like when I can get back to like writing whatever has been in my brain. I think this is kind of like a on topic, off topic. One of my favorite things ever is when I'm doing some kind of content or I'm like researching another, film that's coming out at that time, or a TV show or an actor and what they're doing in their process and stuff. I love learning other people's journeys. And then when you go to write, you're in such a creative mindset from what I was doing earlier. It really kind of helps translate back into what I'm doing in the writing side. So probably anytime that I'm researching is my favorite part of the creative journey, whether that's for books or for TV shows and content. I really like researching and just like absorbing whatever I can.
Perfect. I was going to say that's a perfect segue into the fact that you are this big pop culture figure. You have tabs on like everything that's going on with movies, TV, music. What is something that's really maybe not like super hot in pop culture right now, but what's something that you think is really underrated in pop culture right now that we should get on top of?
Oh, okay. I have one so season 1, when it originally came out, was very underrated, and I was so mad that it was underrated. I put it out everywhere. I was like, I am not going to stop posting about this. It's the Artful Dodger. If anyone has seen that TV
my gosh,
show,
with Maya Mitchell.
Yes.
Oh my
It
gosh.
is so good. And you have one of the actors from The Maze Runner in it, and he still looks like he's 17
Like
years
14,
old. Like,
yes,
it's like
in
how
his teen years.
It's like, and he's in his 30s. I'm like, somebody dropped the skincare routine immediately.
He reverse
but
aged.
It's like, it's crazy. But that one is so underrated. And season 2 just came out, and I got to interview the costume designer from the show.
Yes.
Such a cool experience to like hear her creative process and how she put everything together. And she's just the sweetest lady, and she has like one of those British accents that just made her even like cooler in my mind. I was like, I don't know why, but it was a really cool experience. That one is so underrated right now, that show. So if you like enemies to lovers, but then also like friends to lovers, but then like rivals, like academic rivals to lovers, very much your show, set in the 1890s or 60s.
Yeah. Also, if you love the trope, what letters? Oh
Yes.
my goodness. I came out of my seat.
Me too.
So good.
Yes.
Okay, you've met some incredible, speaking of like interviewing the costume designer, but like you've met some incredible stars from franchises like The Vampire Diaries and Supernatural. Who's been some of your favorites that you've encountered, and who else is on your like wish list to meet in the future?
So if you watch The Vampire Diaries, Damon Salvatore, Ian in real life is probably the sweetest human I've ever met of any star. I mean, truly, he spends so much time with every person who's at any of those conventions that you're at. It is so bad, actually, behind the scenes secret. It is so bad how long he takes with everybody that his like managers and handlers will have to physically like push him out of the room because he will still be talking to people as he's walking. He is such a genuine human. He's so, so sweet. So definitely him. He was amazing. I think anyone I've ever met has honestly been really nice. The person that I would love to meet the most, I'm obsessed with Nicholas Galazine. So, and he's going to be He-Man in the new upcoming film. I would really love, to meet him. I would faint and fall and die, but I would love to meet him, so.
You would love to faint, fall, and die in front of him.
Yeah,
Yes.
just like right on him would be totally fine, so.
Okay, so do you have any like pop culture Roman Empire moments, like anywhere in like recent years or even in the past that like you think about often?
Yes. Anyone here watch like Teen Wolf? That was one that I'm like Styles and Lydia in Teen Wolf when we finally had like a moment with them, which I personally believe was way too little of time that we got with them actually together. But that was my Roman Empire when we actually got like their first kiss together, 100%.
Love it. Okay, going back to writing a little bit, when you found out that you got the deal, who were some of the first people that you told?
Oh, definitely my parents, because they had to endure the whole situation with me, and I do truly mean endure. I was a wreck writing this novel because I was like, you have imposter syndrome while you're writing. I'm like, is this good enough? Is it not good enough? And I love my dad, but he is a red pin person to everything. And he's a questioner. Like, he'd be like, why did we write this? Is there a reason? I'm like, no, Dad, there is no reason. That word is there for no reason. So I told them right away, and that was a really cool experience to be like, okay, finally, all of this hard work, making my dad stay up until 2 a.m. in the morning, reading it out loud to me so I could hear it. I'm very auditory. I have to hear everything, and so I literally would force him to read these chapters out loud over and over and over again. So I definitely told them right away. And then I actually told my ex then right after, which is a weird way to say it, but We had kind of been together while I was writing the story, and then we went through a breakup, and we became close friends afterwards. But I always teased him. I said, I'm so glad that I ended up having a heartbreak while writing this book. Thank you. So I actually called him, and I told him, and he was very excited too. So
It's almost like a little bit of a Taylor Swift moment.
it really was, genuinely.
Which, I'm a Swiftie, I'm kind of nosy, I have to know, please drop your top 3 favorite albums, and do you have any tracks of hers in her discography that, like, either you feel like she wrote you to filth or that you just claim as, like, a favorite?
Oh, well, actually, we were just talking about Ruin the Friendship. That one really fits the story, and definitely I love anything that has that kind of vibe to it. Her Red album was one that was like a big deal to me when I was actually here. I was living in McKinney, Texas at the time. I was in elementary school, and it came out, and my mom, she picked me up, and I can vividly remember she had the album in the car for me, and then she also had they were selling the journals. She had these like little journals ready for it, and so I got the journal and I got that, and that's when I started like writing little poetry and like songs and stuff, because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be Taylor Swift, and then I realized I couldn't sing, so that went out the window very quickly. But yeah, definitely Red album, Ruin the Friendship, all of that.
Love. Okay. So you found your publisher through an in-person writing conference, if I did my research correctly. Yes. What advice do you have for writers that are looking to kind of further network in the industry and get their foot in the door a little bit?
Finding writer friends is a big one. I think that's the easier one, finding writer friends, people who understand the challenges of being up at 2 a.m. in the morning and not knowing at all what to say or do, but you're like, I have to finish this. Finding people that you can kind of connect with in that. I did end up finding my publisher through a writing convention, and I do definitely recommend them because you find writers really fast to have community with. You're able to then also kind of understand the business side of the industry, which is such a weird experience because you think, oh, I'm going to write a book, but then you don't understand all like the little things that go with it. So I do love the conventions, and I think that's a way for you to kind of get a little ins and outs of it all. And you get to talk with publishers and agents and understand what are they looking for, what do they like, and it also helps when you go for the query process and you realize everything you've done wrong. You get to hear that right away from them. So I think all of that, it's great education right away.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you're going in the query trenches, you guys. It's rough.
Queries
Brace yourself.
Fun.
What's something that you're proud of as an author that nobody really sees? It's more of this kind of unsung accomplishment for you.
Ooh, an unsung accomplishment. So probably is the fact that I don't think a lot of people know that there's art inside of the book when you flip through the pages, and every chapter has a little kind of art on top of it, and that was a really big accomplishment for me. One, getting to be allowed to have art inside of a book and get to have that creative process. I was really blessed that I had that opportunity. But two, I did it because, again, like I said, I'm very neurodivergent. So for me, being dyslexic, I knew that writing a story that had 2 timelines could get very confusing very fast, specifically for somebody like me who, when I'm reading, it takes me a little bit sometimes, it takes me a minute to understand what's going on. So the idea was to create these little images that signified, okay, we're in the current timeline and we're in the past timeline. You're always going to know what timeline you're in. You're always going to know what date it is, what time it is, make it a little bit easier. And there's also little hints to the story in each image. And that was kind of one of those moments for me that creating, I call them mini brain breaks for neurodivergent readers, was kind of my unsung hero, getting to kind of put a little bit of my community in the book.
Yeah, for sure. So you've gone on record and you said, quote, some love stories aren't about a happily ever after or an end. They're about every day, every hour, every second in between. First of all, beautiful. Second of all, what are some of the in-between moments in your life that you really especially cherish?
I would say for me, definitely, again, with learning to write and being comfortable being a writer, one of those moments for me was when I decided to become a writer. I would say I, again, was not somebody who necessarily thought they were ever going to be a writer or thought that was going to be something I could do. I loved stories. I loved movies and television from basically being born. There's a video of my dad rocking me to The Lord of the Rings at 6 months old. Great parenting skills right there. And so stories were always something that I really loved, but the idea of writing one myself was not something that you're necessarily told when you're, dyslexic that you should be doing or you could be doing. And so I ended up in high school, and I was going to go to college to become a fashion designer, was my original thought. I loved sewing. That was something I'm also very short, so I had to learn how to tailor really fast in life. So I thought, fashion was, the natural process for me. I ended up in a Shakespeare class that this lady right here actually pushed me into. So sorry, pointing you out for it. She physically pushed me through a door. And it was a Shakespeare class that we were going to be basically reading and understanding the works of Shakespeare. I was in the front seat of the class because my other friends were in there with me. And I was almost hyperventilating into like a paper bag at this point. Like, I can't believe that I have to now read Shakespeare out loud of all things. The teacher comes into the room. And when I tell you, she had like a gesture hat on, she had swords, and she had like little fake like squirt guns and things with her. And I'm like, what did I just get into? And she came to the front of the class. She had all these scripts with her, and she handed them out to us. And she said, okay, get up in the front of the room. Let's have some fun. Grab a costume. Let's get into this. And instead of like reading from a textbook and understanding Shakespeare that way, she made us kind of experience it. And it was so fun because nobody can read Shakespeare out loud perfectly. And if you can, you are one of the chosen people. And it's hilarious because me and all my friends were butchering this stuff, right? But we're having so much fun, and we're learning it, we're understanding it, and we're feeling it. And I'm not being called out for not being able to read. For the first time in my life, I'm not feeling fear. And I was finally able to experience literature in a way that most kids get to. She put it on the whiteboard, she put the story and said, okay, this is the 3-act story structure. This is how it lays out. And she put it in a kind of a visual format. She knew that I was a visual learner. So she made this little sketch and little people and everything. And she really taught me how a story laid out. And I went home, and it was like this light bulb moment, and I decided that I wanted to become a writer. I told my parents, by the way, I'm ripping up my college applications currently, and we're going to start from scratch and decide I'm going to go into English and creative writing. And my dad goes, you've read 2 books in your entire life, but you're going into writing. And I was like, yeah, of course. And from that moment on, I literally grabbed every single book I could get my hands on and would read them. And something that my mom had done with me when I was really young was I would put an audiobook on, and I would have the book in front of me so I could kind of start auto-recognizing. And so that's what I started doing again. But this time, instead of doing it because it was a school thing or, because it was pressured, I was doing it because I now had a love of literature. So it was it might be a minute moment in some people's lives, but for me, it was the biggest moment in my world. So I would say that was one of my in-between moments that, on the outside might not have looked like a big thing, but really kind of changed my whole life.
That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I loved that answer. I am curious, though. I'm not super big with Shakespeare. I haven't read all his stuff. Do you have a favorite Shakespearean play or book that he's ever written?
Much to Do About Nothing. That was my favorite because that was the story that was the story we did in the class. So for me, it's also kind of like I think just in the back of my mind to love that one. But Much to Do About Nothing. It's one of his comedies, which I feel like Shakespeare doesn't have like a ton of like comedies everyone knows about. A lot of them are kind of tragedies. So I would say Much to Do About Nothing, and then obviously everyone loves Romeo and Juliet. But I think Much to Do About Nothing was one of my favorites.
Awesome. So aside from Shakespeare, what romance books out there inspire you as a writer, even if they didn't help inspire The Enemy of Time?
There's a story. Actually, they made a movie of it too. It was P.S. I Love You.
Oh, yes.
I love the way that story is written and how it just weaves this narrative together of the letters. And you see this beautiful love story between her and her husband, even though you know that he's not there with her in the present. We watch her go through these grieving processes, but also we watch her get her light back at the same time. It's such a beautiful story. Again, it's a romance, but it also is this heartbreaking and teachable book at the same time. So I would say that one was one that I love. Yeah, I think that's definitely would have been my favorite. And then I love Rosie. It's the same author, actually.
Yes.
Yes, I
So
love
good.
That has that friends to lovers element, which was a big thing I wanted to write. I think there's such a beauty in friends to lovers because there's such a beauty in friends in general and that connection you have. Love Rosie does it just beautifully. The movie is also beautiful too, but the book is a really it's a different way to look at the friends to lovers in my mind. And that one has a happily ever after, which is really cute, the way they bring it together. But I love that one too.
Okay. For my last little bit before we open up to audience questions, I always like to ask authors when I encounter them where they stand on like this or that categories for like, quintessential reading traits.
Okay.
There are no wrong answers. There are only your answers today.
Oh, there's wrong answers. But
There are, but like, we'll just pretend. Okay, so for you, is it going to be an ebook, a physical book, an audiobook, or are you coupling them up?
I need the physical and I need the audio. I'm very textile. I need to touch it, but then I need to hear it.
Are you a paperback or a hardback girl?
I'm a paperback. I like the floppiness.
Yeah,
I do.
that's fair. Especially, like, I love a good hardback, but I have to take the dust jacket off.
Exactly, and I want the floppiness of, I don't know why, but yeah. Again, textiles.
Okay, so obviously I know the answer to this one, but originally it was going to be friends to lovers or enemies to lovers, but I'm going to tweak it a little bit more for enemy of time. Friends to lovers or second chance romance?
I'm going to go friends to lovers, even though I love second chance romances, but I'm going to go friends to lovers.
Okay, writing playlist or a project Pinterest board?
Oh, playlist. I love both. I've done both, but I'm a I write when I'm listening to music because it gets me into that feeling for it. So definitely the playlist.
Okay, and it's probably public knowledge, but we got to know, what are the top 3 bangers in your writing playlist for this book?
Oh my gosh. I'm terrible with titles of everything. But Mom, actually, if you have my phone, I have my playlist on there, and I will like read it off of that. But there was this one, and it's like Back to Friends, I think it's called. Oh, so good.
Oh, is that somber?
Different one, but I love that one too. And have you watched his concerts and stuff like that? Man, that guy gets into it. Like, he's banging around on that stage.
Yeah.
He's doing his whole thing.
Yeah, he's hip-hopping around.
Okay, go to the Spotify playlists.
This is important. We have to know.
This is very important. Okay, so it's Back to Friends by Lauren Spencer Smith.
Oh, yes.
Such a good
She's the girl that
song.
did Fingers Crossed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Such a good song. If You Want Me Tonight by Landon Smith. Hopeless Romantics by James T.W. Hopeless Romantics, that song is so unbelievably beautiful. If you haven't heard it, I feel like it's not as known of one. It like touches your soul. I swear, there's something about that. It says like, we were hopeless romantics. How did we get here? And it's just like gorgeous. So those 3.
Love. Are you a couch reader or are you a bed reader?
I think I'm a bed reader. I like my blankets around me. Then I like 5 different drinks in front of me. And then I have my snacks. It's like a whole mood thing.
Are you a binge reader or do you like to take your time getting through a book?
Depends on the genre of book, honestly, of what it is. Fantasy, I have to take a little bit extra time, I feel like, sometimes with it. Romance, if it's a sad romance, I'm binging it immediately. If it's a happy romance, I like to spread that out.
Okay. Books that make you laugh or books that make you cry?
Books that make me cry, which probably tells me I need to go to therapy, but I love a good,
And then, do you prefer a happy ending or do you like a cliffhanger that takes you into another book?
I love a cliffhanger that takes me into another book. I know like everyone's got their own opinion. I love a good cliffhanger that takes me into something else. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, that's all I have on my list. So we're going to open it up to any audience questions that you might have. Feel free to chime in.
Uh-oh.